Welcome to the Big Kickoff Football Show with myself, Roy Shanahan, Mr. David Bugle, and Neil Dobbs from thebigkickoff.com. Now, this week, Liverpool, Dave, put in a bid for Federico Chiesa. And you know what? I never even thought about Federico Chiesa.
Yeah.
Perfect fit for Liverpool.
Yeah, but it'll just make it very interesting. Like, it's big bucks. It's a 86 million bid has been put in. Apparently, it's been rejected, but that's usually how the cat and mouse game goes. 3-2 doesn't go. Does somebody leave? Do rotating three big players like that, and Salah, Mane, and Chiesa would be tough, or is he going to try and fit the three in? He's playing the Oxlade-Chamberlain in the false nine at the moment to see will he kind of support Firmino. So if it was to happen, it'd be very interesting to see does somebody else move on, or are they going to try and come up with a new system or a new way of doing it? Chiesa impressed in the Euros, so I'd be very impressed with him, and I'm quite happy with him. He was probably the most energetic out of them all up in the front three. So I think Klopp will. I think it'll suit his style. So a bit out of left field when I first heard it, but when I heard it, I was pleasantly surprised. He's one of them that isn't kind of under the radar, but he's about to kind of break out. Not quite like Liverpool, but yeah, if it was to happen, I'd be quite excited. But then interested to see, do you keep everyone or does somebody go then? You know.
Neil, we were talking last week about Liverpool and Harry Kane, and they never seem to be interested, or there's never any rumblings about them, and that they probably wouldn't spend that type of money. Well, we're kind of wrong here, because they're willing to spend nearly €100 million on Chiesa, and it just shows that Klopp has a little bit of a different outlook than other managers, and Chiesa could fit in that front three. You might have a Salah or not so much Mane, but a Salah who could play centre forward.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it gives them extra options, doesn't it? Like, we haven't even discussed Jota in there as well, who, you still need to find a kind of permanent place for. They're willing, as you're saying, that if they're willing to spend that kind of money, it's a good sign. Maybe it shows that that's what's in the kitty. Generally, when Liverpool are linked with a guy like that, like there was a time where you weren't buying this type of talent. Then kind of Virgil van Dijk was kind of singled out as the guy for the back line. Alisson was singled out as the guy that they needed to solve the problem in goal. So maybe he's thinking to himself, Firmino isn't quite the player he was maybe from last year. Maybe he doesn't have the faith that he can get back to the level that he was at. And to move, as you said, maybe Mo Salah into a more central role. You could put Chiesa out wide right, I guess, judging from the Euros, as Dave is saying. But yeah. Listen, it could be an exciting sign, and it could be interesting where it goes.
Yeah, and Dave, he works hard. He's extremely hard worker, so that fits down Klopp's avenue all day long.
No, absolutely. Like, it very much fits the mold. Like, as I said, he was the one who had the energy up front and was defending from the front at times. And even when they were kind of their backs to the wall, he still found a little bit more in the tank. So he ticks a lot of his boxes, and I'd say he probably would go down the right. And if we were to keep everyone, Salah would be the most likely option, because unfortunately, as good as Firmino is for us, it's his finishing is letting him down. His goal output is diminishing, and you know yourself, he misses a few fucking easy ones, like far too many for my liking. The ice is not in the veins the way the other guys are, so the writing's on the wall potentially by the looks of it.
Yeah, Neil, Jordan Henderson contracts talks broke down over the week. They're saying they're still talking now at the moment, or there's still something going on in the background. Do you really think that Jordan Henderson would lead Liverpool? He's got 2 years left. There's talk about Arsenal. Who wants to go to Arsenal?
First of all, no, I don't think Jordan Henderson's going to go anywhere. Now, whether they even let Henderson's contract play down now, so they're not stuck in the kind of Gini Wijnaldum situation where they're offering a guy an extra year when they really, really don't want it. So we've said this a number of times on the show, right? You can't have Henderson, Thiago, Milner, Gini, all at the same age in their 34, 35 years, because that's the heart and soul. That's the pure heart and the drive of that team. So on one hand, you've got Wijnaldum, who's gone now, which they need to find a replacement for. There's absolutely no way you could afford to let Henderson go. But I guess the way Liverpool have dealt with the Wijnaldum situation this is kind of, I think, where they came from, that there's a little bit of shithousery involved here, that, you're going to let the captain go. He's gone in 2 years. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think this will be a more sensible option. Because in the midfield, the way Liverpool play at the moment, Henderson is absolutely essential to the way they want to play, to the way they want to press. And he's the kind of Klopp's voice on the field, isn't he, as far as what Jurgen wants.
Yeah. Just on Gini Wijnaldum, Dave, he came out this week saying that he felt loved by the fans in the stadium, but not on social media. That may be one of the reasons why he felt he was going to go. But then again, does anyone feel loved on social media when things go wrong? I mean, there's always those people, isn't there?
Yeah, like he dropped a hint just before he left to say he'd reveal all further down the line, and I was expecting to hear a story of a bit of betrayal with the board or in the contract haggling. I was going to be promised this, that, and the other. And for this to be the first thing that comes out, considering, like, Jesus, lads, it's not warranted what they get, but unfortunately they all do. So it leaves a bit of a bad taste in the mouth, considering he was very graceful when he was leaving and giving it the big one on Twitter, ironically enough, about thanking the club and the fans for everything and the 5 great years he's been there and the best 5 years he's ever had. And who's to say it's going to be the same? Now, the reason why it leaves the bad taste in the mouth, he's gone for triple the money to Paris Saint-Germain. You know, let's be honest here. And then the first thing he does is push back at the fans as one of the excuses. I'm not buying it. I think he's probably, the PR machine are probably trying to soften the blow and try and not make it look like it's mercenary when it doesn't help but look like that when up until the other day. But like I said, I don't care. You can say what he wants. He was a great servant and I'd miss him on the field. But, you know, I think he needs to bury that quick. Otherwise, you know, that'll stick around and the Scousers don't forget, as we know.
Well, it's almost guaranteed now that Liverpool get Paris Saint-Germain. Neil, Virgil van Dijk and Gomez, they're not participating in any of the games so far. What do we know about that?
Yeah, so the Van Dijk situation is one, like anyone that gets a cruciate injury, because I've had two myself, I always seem to get gravitated towards watching the stories, the recoveries. I've been watching a good bit of Van Dijk and the likes of Instagram and stuff like that to see his updates. Now, there was big rumours that Van Dijk was going to be pushed ahead of schedule to get into the Dutch side for the Euros. And I remember kind of writing in a little bit about that it was way, way premature because there's certain stages of recovery that you have to go through in order to get back playing. And Van Dijk never, in any of his little clips, his little 30-second clips, showed him doing anything more than running the straight lines. He was never even running figure eights. You know, there's a certain kind of a comeback trail that you make. So I knew that was never going to happen. But it is interesting now watching the Liverpool pre-season. They've been playing, they started off playing 2 different teams for a half hour. And then they played Mainz there the other day. They played out a 1-0 win. But Van Dijk and Gomez weren't in the squad. Like, not even on the bench, not even in the squad. And when Klopp is asked about it, he's basically said, look, they're back, they're training, they're getting up to full level, but they're not match fit yet. End of story. But there's a big difference between match fit and, you know, getting 10 or 20 minutes in the legs. So there seems to be, it's almost like an element of risk that they're kind of putting on this, that they definitely don't want to rush him back. But it would suggest that the back line they played the other day of Costas at the left, Alexander-Arnold, and then Kanate and Matip could actually be the back 4 that starts against Norwich. And it does make sense because these guys seem to be way, way ahead of the game. Like, for now, Van Dijk would need 3 or 4 games, and he's just not going to get that. So it's an interesting one to watch. It's something, as I say, I always keep an eye on. But, you know, for anyone that thought he was just going to bounce back, come back in the summer and go straight into pre-season, it just shows there's a little bit more to the road to recovery to go.
Okay, Arsenal this week on Wednesday, it looks like Ben White is going to have his medical, Dave. There's talk of Aaron Ramsdale being signed, a third offer of around 25 million. They said it could be 30 million, but I think there's a few people saying that it's ridiculous to think it's going to go to 30 million. If it gets to 25 million, Dave, why not 30 million? What do you make of the potential signing and the figure?
It's a lot of money for a sub keeper. If he's going to be a sub keeper, it's, you bring somebody like that in, you're looking to put him into the team, and then Bert Leno would probably have something to say about it. And then a year ago, you've got rid of arguably the form keeper in the Premier League and Emi Martinez, and obviously what he's done in the summer now as well with Argentina. You're left scratching your head going, you got rid of him for 20 million. But in a year, you want to get another guy in for 30 who probably isn't as good, and you're spending that much money to put him in as a number 2. I doubt it. So if he's like Ramsdale's, nah. You know, that's the best I can say about him. He's just, he's okay. You know, he'll do a job, but he's not elite. And it's just another one of them with Arsenal where you're just scratching your head going, you know, Martinez didn't exactly go under the radar at Arsenal. He showed his class before they let him go. It was just bizarre. And they put all their eggs in one basket with Leno, and now they've shelled out, and well, they will shell out up to 30 million for Ramsdale. It's just, unfortunately for it, I can't say it any other way than just typical Arsenal.
Yeah. Neil, Ramsdale was out of this world when he was playing for Bournemouth. Then he went to Sheffield United and was the complete opposite. He looked very fragile, unpredictable at times. Why would Arsenal go for Ramsdale? I could understand if it was on the Bournemouth form, but on top of the Sheffield United form.
Yeah, as you say there, when he played for Bournemouth, Eddie Howe liked to play from the back. He played high risk, played from the back. And, you know, if you remember from an Irish perspective, we used to watch Mark Travers get in there and you were hoping that he'd take his chance, and he wasn't as comfortable as Ramsdale with the ball at his feet. So I think he did well in Bournemouth. I think Sheffield United played in a different manner, but he never really looked, you know, where he did get game time and he got a lot of experience. And maybe that's where this is coming from, that you can actually say he's a proven Premier League goalkeeper who's played a full season, played a lot of games. But as Dave said there, I just don't see the spark in him. Like, there's nothing elite about him. You know what I mean? He's a typical, like, would he even be a choice for England or something like that if he got there? You know what I mean? There's nothing about this guy, do you think, let's drop 25, 30 million on. The other side of it is, what are Arsenal doing in their youth system that they can't, you know, produce a goalkeeper that can go on the bench or someone that they can blood? Like, it just seems to be, as Dave said, typical Arsenal, that they had a guy that looks class, a class act in Martinez. They let him go. They didn't promote any youth or give anyone else another chance. And now all of a sudden, 25 million is money that for Arsenal could be way, way better spent further up the field. It just seems a very, very strange one to me.
To be honest, Neil, I was just sorry, Roy. I was just trying to Google, is there new Brexit rules or something with the Premier League, the way they have to have a certain amount from a home? Like, that's the only reason why I was thinking maybe, is this what it is now? There's a bit of a scramble for a certain, because they have a certain amount in the squad, isn't it? So unless that's what it is, and because other than that, it is a head scratcher and it doesn't make much sense. So I was just trying to find what's the new criteria, because I presume there will be.
Surely they'd have someone in the youth section that.
Of course they would. Of course they would. Yeah,
it is kind of bizarre, but again, if they feel that he's going to be their number one, so be it. Maybe that's what it's going to be. Okay, Neil, Aston Villa, seemingly reports have it that they're going to offer Jack Grealish 200 grand a week to stay. First question is, will he stay? It's his club, 200 grand a week. There's probably no rush for him to go anywhere else. He's not necessarily in the rush that Kane is to win those trophies and to be in that Champions League. He's a bit like Declan Rice. He could hang on for a year.
Yeah, I mean, from his perspective, he's a young lad. He's plying his trade. He's been a couple of years at Villa. He's the captain of the club. I don't think he's really too phased as far as, you know, getting involved in this type of thing. He handled himself well last year. Like we've said multiple times in the show, how well he's led himself on the field. He doesn't hide. Maybe he fails another year and could be the right time. This could be like a Sancho scenario where maybe I'll play out another year and see where it goes. Now, obviously, it comes with the bang for the buck is when someone actually tables a proper out and out 80 million bid or 100 million bid, because that's the one that will test you. I just think with all the Harry Kane stuff going on at the moment, I think that's overshadowing of who wants who in the Premier League at the moment. So it seems to be, I think when that kind of deal gets done and that money gets dealt out, there only remains to be, actually, is there even any club that's going to throw 100 million at Grealish? If you look at United now, has signed Sancho, said I don't think they're going to spend 100 million on the far flank. City, if they get Kane, I think that'll be their business more or less done, because their squad is quite accomplished. Like, who else is there then to say, right, let's hit 80 million for Grealish? So maybe he'll have to wait another year and wait his turn for that kind of big move. But Villa are on the up and up at the moment as well. They seem to be gaining good members. They've a kind of a stable team since they kind of flirted with relegation 2 years ago. So maybe he's thinking they can make an assault on the top six or something this year, which makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, and there was talk this week, Dave, that a 25 million bid was rejected from Bayer Leverkusen for Leon Bailey, who is a winger for Villa as well. So you question, because I think they got another number 10 or slash winger from Norwich for 38 million. You question, are these players coming in as backup because Jack Grealish did miss an awful lot of time last year and that cost him, or is it as a replacement?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. But to be honest, for him, if he was to be clever, I think he'd take it for 200 grand, because if that's his base before he moves on to bigger and better, you can only imagine the money he's going to be on if he moves on. Well, now he'll probably get that if he moves. So if he wants to be greedy and if his agent is in his ear, let's take this contract, let's play another year, let's keep the form up, and then we'll move for double that again, and we're rolling in it. Let's face it, that's the sad reality of football it is nowadays. So if he wants to take that angle, I think he should stick around. And Villa are a big club. I know, fair enough, for the last 10 years or so, we can say they haven't been. But Villa have always been around and fantastic stuff in the early 80s and into the mid-90s. And they had some great European runs. They've been there and done that, and they've a massive, big ground, nearly 40,000, big fan base. It could be just a bit of, now that we're in the Premier League for the last couple of seasons, the money's back and we can start looking at competing and getting the 30 and 40 million pound players and try and build around Jack Grealish and try and get that bit of magic going and see if you can kind of potentially lure on the fact, a bit like Gerrard with Liverpool, try and keep the local lad, keep giving him the big bucks and try and keep him there to try and be, do you want to be the hero and the legend of the club as some of the other guys that have been before him? So yeah, I'd stick around for the year if I was him and solidify his position as one of the up-and-coming player, big players in the Premier League, and then go on to bigger and better things, because that'd be one massive contract if he signs this one.
Huge, absolutely huge. Dave, we're going to stick with you because this week Everton signed Andreas Townsend, so there's a winger in. Bernard left, he's gone to further afield. I think he was there 2 years, didn't do an awful lot, so they're looking for wingers, and Dwight McNeil is on their radar. Sean Dyche came out this week and he was asked a question, how determined are you to keep him here? And he said, well, he's still here, so he actually said, so I might. So there's a little question mark there. In other words, if the money's big enough, more than likely I'm going to have to sell him. First of all, how do Burnley cope with that? Because he's such a good player for them, such an influential player for them. And secondly, how good would he be for Everton?
I'd be massive for Everton. And then you have to remember as well, they've got Damari Gray as well in from, did he come in from Germany or somewhere? That's so there's right. 3 wingers and full of pace as well is Gray, and kind of another potential. Like, I know he's 25, but like I put McNeil ahead of him. But with Burnley,
I think McNeil can play inside in the 10 role as well.
Exactly, and that's where Hama is, or whoever it might be that was floating around. And let's just say another player who we won't name at the moment played in there as well. Who's not there at the moment. Moving on. You know what I'm saying. You know what
Who's the other player?
Well, there's another player who plays in that number 10 role that's not currently at the club at the minute that we all know about. That's
yes.
Allegedly.
Sorry.
Just stirring the fire. Anyway,
but
McNeil is a good player and there's no denying it. This is the sad reality with Burnley. As great as they are, they're never going to break the top 10 or the top 8. They're just a survival club as best as they can. And eventually the bubble bursts with these players that eventually they'll move on. And unfortunately, McNeil is that guy who's next on the list. And then you just have to try and spend wisely with the money that they get in to try and bring in enough quality to keep them up, and then try and build up again and be another awkward side, maybe a cup run and a little quick fix in Europe. But that's as good as you can get with Burnley. So cash it, like his stock is really high at the moment. I'd cash in, because something goes wrong this year, all of a sudden he's down 10, 15 million. And, you know, the model that Burnley have is out the window.
Neil, is it only a matter of time before all this catches up on Burnley? Or can you see them, Sean Dyche, consistently doing it? At least they'll be there while Sean Dyche is there. But if Sean Dyche left, then it might be a problem. What way would you view that?
Yeah, I think, look, Sean Dyche has put such a mark on the club. If you look at what he's done the last few years, even when they're in the relegation zone or flirting around the relegation zone, he just seems to have that right formula, the calmness and the belief that, listen, we're going to get out of here. We're going to, eventually dig out 2 or 3 results. Because at times last year, they looked quite bleak for them. They were really, really poor in games. And they give up a lot of possession. So it's a hard watch for the supporters, regardless of anybody else. But I think the way he has them set up, they're very well drilled. And they just seem to be always good enough, in particularly, obviously, the lower half teams, is to edge out these results that sees them through. It reminds you of like a Tony Pulis or, the Allardyce kind of model where it's just very, very effective in the Premier League. And look, there's other ways of winning games, and Sean Dyche finds a way to win the game. He's an old school 4-4-2 manager, which there's not a lot of them. He sacrifices possession for the greater good. He's launching balls left, right, and centre up to the two forwards, who are your old-fashioned English centre forward, and it pays dividends at the end of the year. So, Bordy are in that scenario where be careful what you wish for if you ever wish for that and different, because as Dave said, if they took a tumble, they may never get back up with the kind of structure that they have. So I think they're a selling club when they need to be. But when you're letting go with one of your crown jewels, you want to be very, very careful. You have somebody in there, be it, your eye on someone that you would bring in under the radar or for a lesser price when you do sell them, because Premier League doesn't stand still for nobody.
No. Neil, Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this week signed a new contract till 2024. Do you feel it was deserved?
Do you know what it is? We say this quite a lot. David, do you know what it is? I have to say, I think he really stuck in last year. In the early part of last year, he just didn't hit the ground running. And I thought, he's under pressure here. The whole Pochettino thing came back up. Is he going to be on his way out? So I think when United fall on tough times, everyone says he doesn't have the stature or the composure to bring them to the next level. But I have to tip my hat to him. I thought he actually did really well last year, and I think he stuck to what his principles are. He stuck to a formation, and he got them up the table. And, I think he did largely well. The big question is, can he win trophies? Can he get them over the line? Like he let the Europa go this year, which should have been in the bag. But he is getting in players slowly but surely that seem to be filling a couple of voids. So Sancho's a big signing. If they get their centre back, that's a big, big signing for them. I think we kind of alluded to it last week or the week before where we said, but can they overhaul City? That's the biggest obstacle. Can anyone overhaul City the way they're playing? So on one hand, I think Solskjaer, he's doing well. I don't know would I have rewarded him with another contract. Just keep doing what you're doing and let's see where it goes. But it definitely puts a bit of stability in there, and they seem to be planning for the next 2 to 3 years rather than, that model of bring Mourinho in, didn't work, get rid of him. Bring Louis van Gaal in, didn't work it in. But the quick fix is gone. And look, you have no choice now but to roll the dice and stick with him and give him a chance.
Dave, Paul Pogba has 1 year left on his contract. He's leaving. He's not leaving. This is not just this month. This is not just this year. This is constantly since he joined back, probably after the first year he joined back. Will Manchester United try and get something for him, or could it possibly be possible that they'll just let him see out his contract? Because I know there's talk about contract talks, but do Manchester United fans over in PSG have made it known that they don't really want them over there? There's been fans at Manchester United who have made it known that they don't really want them there. Where do you see this one going?
I just think it'd be criminal to let him go twice for nothing. It'd be absolutely criminal, because as much as he is a frustrating player and as much as he's a phenomenal player when some of his range of passing and his striking ability of a ball is fantastic, but it's just sometimes his head is in the clouds, as we all know, and he needs something. He's one of them early Zlatan or early kind of Arnautovic. The wheel's running, but there's no one at the wheel. Kind of the engine's running, but there's no one at the wheel sometimes. But when he's clicked in, he can be special. There's no denying it. But it's just the business side of it would bother me, to let him go again for nothing. And he is a marketable player, whether we like it or not. It really should be about what's on the pitch. But he is a marketable player. So if they've no interest in him, I'd just get rid of him and make a few quid out of him, because to let him go for free, I just think twice. What did George Bush say? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again. Well, they'll get fooled again if they let him go for nothing.
Do you think that you get much though for him? Because with 1 year left, the ball's really
that's a different story,
in the court, isn't it? So, I mean, you're probably looking at a max 40 to 50 million you're going to get for him, because there's no way you're going to recoup the 80 odd million.
No. And would you want to try and renegotiate a new contract as well? Because you see some of the figures, the money that Raiola makes compared to the other guys, it's next level. So if you're trying to renegotiate with Pogba, you can imagine you're going to have to get the checkbook out, because this guy seems to be an expert. So is 50 million worth, kind of 40, 50 million worth it, or do you let him go for nothing? That's United's problem, but it's not looking likely. There's no talks too much of renewing the contract, so he's either going or it's going to play out. But either way, he's not really in the long term picture by the looks of it. Anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, but although Solskjaer came out today and said that Pogba is saying that he's looking forward to the new season, sounds like Solskjaer wants him there for the new season. Sounds like Pogba is saying the right things. Personally, for me, I think I'd like to see him gone. There's talk of Donny van der Beek staying now and fighting for his place. He has a lot to prove, but Ruben Neves is now on the radar, and he would be a very interesting player. That would be, as Neil was talking about, you have your right wing spot, you have your centre back spot, now your centre midfield spot. Now you're starting to fill all the gaps that were there.
Oh, 100%. Like, United are not far away. Like, and I think the most important word that Neil said is stability. It really does kind of hammer home that the United are kind of happy at the situation they have. They're happy who's at the wheel, pardon the pun, and they're willing to back him now because, well, they have backed him and they're backing him again. And if they do bring in the likes of a Neves and Varane, it brings another pressure because I don't think, well, the fans might, that's a different story, but I think the board at minimum would like to see the gap closing because it doesn't just happen overnight. But if they can see they're very close or they're very close on the tail of City, they'll be quite happy. While if the gap is still no different, Solskjaer is under pressure. And I don't mean really under pressure, but it's really like, right, we can't do another year of this. So I think the minimum this year is let's get close, kind of have that season where, oh geez, I think we have it. Like Liverpool had 1 or 2 seasons where you're just shy, but you kind of think we have it here now, lads. I think they need to have that minimum. They need to have that season this year where they're a couple of points off, not a million miles away, and go, yeah, another one, a bit more confidence and 1 or 2 more additions, and let's go at it next year. And I think that's the realistic figure for me. Like, don't get ahead of yourselves, no matter who you get in this year, but just get close and just keep building because City are a juggernaut, as we know. And if you try and do it too soon, and then let's not forget, lads, you've got Chelsea, because Chelsea have been bold. Everyone watched their pennies last year and they spent big. Chelsea are trying to spend big this year, and there's a few watching their pennies, so they could easily jump over everyone else, and all of a sudden you're talking about Chelsea and City if they keep going the way they are. So that's why let's be realistic, stay close or get closer, and then maybe 1 or 2 more additions, but they're not far away, United. Let's not mess about.
Yeah. Neil, again, go back to you about the Solskjaer thing, because as Dave has said, contract to 2024, does that matter a damn? Has that changed anything? Because if Manchester United don't win anything, could you be looking at Solskjaer at the end of the year being under fierce pressure?
Yeah, I think he's going to fall into the category definitely this year if he starts making the semi-finals finals again. Remember Klopp when they brought out that stat that he'd lost so many finals, and they were bringing out the old serial loser, he hasn't broke his duck. For him to win the Champions League that time was absolutely huge because it took all of that away in one swipe. And I think Solskjaer kind of needs something like that now. He needs to win something. He needs to win it in the right manner. I really thought it was going to be the Europa League last year. I thought they were going to go out there, flex the muscle in the final and say, listen, this was no problem at all. This was business as usual. We're back on the right track here. And he's missed a massive opportunity. And yourself in football, you don't always get them. I guess this all comes down again, if you look at the caliber of manager, do you need to have the extra notch up the ladder where you have your Pep, you have your Klopp? Even Tuchel this year came into Chelsea and you just felt they were going to do something. I don't know yet. It's kind of one of these where someone say to me, Solskjaer signed in 3 years, and people like to kind of snigger a bit. But at the same time, as a rival fan, I'm a little content and happy that he is staying there, because I don't know whether he can turn them into serial winners. And I don't know whether he can turn them into winners in a Premier League season where you need to be consistent now, more or less from week 1 all the way through to the end, because City has set the bar so high. So it's a massive challenge for them, but I think they've given him every opportunity to do it this year. And yeah, look, he has to grasp that opportunity.
Yeah, stay with you, Neil, on that one. Manchester City, they obviously talk about them putting in a bid for Harry Kane over the last week. I think everyone's going to be getting some sort of a rumour around our club about putting a bid in for someone. But from Manchester City, it's been very quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah, you see, look, looking at their squad from last year, if you look in particular the way Pep played the last maybe 8 games in the league, he almost played an A and a B team because he was concentrating on Europe. And their B team was fantastic, and their A team was even better. And you're looking at and you're thinking he's proper 2 players for every single position, right the way up the field. Obviously, the only question mark was your Aguero, Jesus. What's he going to do there? So I firmly believe that they have one option this year, and that's to go after Harry Kane. I think they're going to be patient. The word out in the street last week was that, listen, yeah, we want them, but we're not paying 160 million. Forget about that. We might give you 120. So I think they're ready maybe to do battle with Daniel Levy. I think they're prepared if it goes to the last week or so to sit tight, because that's, I think, what Spurs are going to do. By the looks of it, they're going to hang on and hang on. Nuno Espirito is going to come out and say we want to hold on to Harry Kane, and then the decision is going to be made. So I think they'll be quietly content with what they have already. I think there's more to come from that side. But if they get Harry Kane, then it's an absolute super summer transfer with one transfer in the bag. So you can't argue with that.
No. Dave, Chelsea winger Ziyech is looking like he's going to go to AC Milan on loan. He only got to play 15 games last year. Brought in on a hope that he was going to start turning things around. He never really got the opportunity under Tuchel.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Like Tuchel seems like maybe it's a stamp to burst the bubble of some of the, because the way there's it was kind of Frank's team. Do you know the way the English press, it was Frank's team that won the thing, and credit to Frank Lampard. So maybe Tuchel went pop, right, he can go because now I can make it my team and get rid of it. Like, there could be a bit of ego in it. Like, to be honest, he showed little flashes that there was something there, but I don't know. Pulisic is kind of back now, maybe fully fit, and he'd be well aware of him from his time in Germany. So a bit like Abraham, he could be just somebody who is a nice, flashy player, but doesn't do what he's supposed to do 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You wouldn't know, because he's been ruthless with 1 or 2 players. He doesn't give them much game time, and he's unfortunately one of them. And that's the one where you kind of go, I don't know why, really, other than maybe he just doesn't fit the profile, or he hasn't shown the right attitude. A bit similar to potentially Abraham. It's definitely one of them, because he came in for a lot of money, and as I said, he showed 1 or 2 flashes when he came in, and you're like, okay, this guy might have something about him. But now it's like, yeah, out you go, and you stick to what you have, and he's looking to buy another striker, and then you've got your Werners and Pulisic, and who was the other guy? My head's gone. Havertz is there as well. Like, so maybe he, as I said, they want to go hard this year and buy a couple of players, and maybe they're being a bit sensible, going, listen, let's class them back as well. But yeah, Ziyech, a bit similar to Abraham for me. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's just obviously he doesn't fit his mold or his profile. And very surprised to hear that rumour the other day myself.
Yeah, I think even when he moved to Chelsea, there was talk about his temperament and etc. So you don't know if that's the case or if it's not the case, obviously. But one way or the other, if he goes to Milan are going to get a good player there, and that Serie A division seems to be just bit by bit taking in good quality of players. So that it's going to be interesting to see the Italian sides this year. Neil, Harry Wilson going to Fulham. It never really happened for him at Liverpool. Why was that?
Yeah, do you know what? I think he just he suffered a little bit as a, where were you going to put him, I think, is a big thing. Do you know, when you have nearly 5 or 6 undroppable players, you look at Liverpool's midfield 3, he wasn't going to get in there. He wasn't going to oust Mane. He wasn't going to oust Salah. Like, this is a goal scoring midfielder, you know what I mean? Superb shot, really good on set pieces, corner deliveries, free kicks, that type of thing. That's kind of where he built his profile when he was away on loan. I think he had chances in pre-season. He played quite a lot in previous pre-seasons. They loaned him out for the year. And then, this is something I've noticed about Klopp over the last few years. He brings everybody back in pre-season. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter, like, what's his name is in goal there the other day, and then everything you thought he was bleeding dead after the Champions League debacle. But Klopp seems to give them all a chance in pre-season, and then he has a little look at them, and then bam, they're gone. So I think the writing has been on the wall for Wilson. He could have gone last year. And what Liverpool seem to do well is they seem to sell these kids on for 12 million, 15 million. It's really, really good business. Because I think they've raised 36, 40 million already with players that you wouldn't really say had a profile. But Wilson is one of these guys. I think he had his couple of chances, and look, he just wasn't that quality to push himself in there. And Liverpool have quite a few of them on the up and up at the moment. So it's interesting to watch the young talent and how they're coming through.
Yeah, watching him for Wales as well. He just hasn't seemed to step up that kind of level where he's the important player, and that just hasn't happened. And Fulham could be a big turning point for him, because while it's a permanent move where he might feel at home, he very well may start producing, but he has to produce now. So that's going to be a very interesting one. Dave, someone else who has to produce is good old Phil Neville over in the States. And as you quoted when he got the jobs for the boys just isn't working out.
Yeah, he's 5 in a row now he's lost, and they got absolutely spanked on Wednesday night against New England Revolution. Sorry for saying this, but it was an absolute shit show. Chronic mistakes, and I'll use the word a myriad of mental mistakes, like simple things across the back line. They have star names in Matuidi and Shawcross and the Higuain brothers, but they're the ones that are letting them down the most. You know, when do you kind of knock on the door and say, right, Phil, thanks for your services, but it's spiraling out of control. It's only their second season. You know, they had a team in Miami before and it failed. Beckham's face isn't going to keep it going for long enough unless the success comes. So he must be on borrowed time at this stage. Like, I was surprised he got the gig in the first place. Maybe it was the bit of lingo, because I seen a bit of behind the scenes training, and he's well able for the Spanish, because obviously he spent more time in Valencia than Gary did, that's for sure. So I think there was the element of it to kind of pander to the predominantly Hispanic fans, but that's probably long gone out the window. They were booing them at halftime and everything, which I don't know if that's common in the US, but he's a dead man walking, that's for sure.
And what's the noise coming out of America about how they're doing? Or, you know, obviously they're losing games, but is it disastrous?
Well, yeah. Well, honestly, Roy, even the highlights alone will show you the signs that things aren't working out. Like simple little things across the back. Like the goalkeeper, it was as if somebody was. When you're playing FIFA late at night with your mates and you start falling asleep, and he starts running. It was like one of them was like that. The player just, why are you going over there? It was just weird. He literally gave it to one of the guys who put in an open goal. Shawcross, I kept staring to see where he was because there was 5 goals and he was there, but he was doing absolutely nothing. If you know what I mean, there was just no bite in them at all. And then I start watching a bit of the longer highlights in the magazine show at the start of the week. They just look completely disjointed. The heads are down. Higuain is, I'd say, causing ructions because he never seems happy. And then the brothers there as well. So them two could be kicking up a stink as well. And just the mood in the camp just looks disastrous. But yeah, there's a lot of talk that in the last few days looking at it, they're all kind of going, it's a matter of when at this stage for Neville.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to stick with you there because the Olympics have started, Dave.
Yeah.
And the States are one of the favourites for the women's competition. And them boys are going to say, because of Norwegian, remember the Norwegian thing, but they got trounced.
Jeez, I hope Megan Rapinoe's not listening.
Ooh, 3-0. What does that say about them? Is that just cockiness, or is that just caught in a bad
I don't know.
day?
Like they turned it around in the next game anyway, so yeah, maybe just gave them a bit of a slap in the face and got them back going again. Sweden are a decent outfit and just caught them well. So it'll be a watch this space. But in fairness, the women's tournament is the better of the two because there's no underage setup or overage players. It's almost like a mini World Cup, and then you've kind of got Britain in to kind of basically be the England team with a smattering of Northern Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. So they've had a good start 2 from 2. So it'd be interesting if they win. Would it cause a bit of ructions and people go, right, they've got to go, or else pick one of the countries to be the team and that's it, because that's why the men don't want to do it, and there's the fear that people might kind of go, right, it could be the end of the 4 nations. So it'll be very interesting. They've had a good start, look decent. Japan are a good side. They looked after them quite comfortably. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But it's, as I said, it's a bit of a mini World Cup. Apart from Zambia, they got spanked by Holland 10-3 the other day. Girl called Banda got a hat-trick, and then they drew 4-all with China. So they concede a lot and they score a lot. So maybe they are worth watching because they'll only 1 game left. But it's in relation to America, yeah, they won 4-1. It was like, or 6-1 yesterday. So I'd say they're angry now and they've a point to prove. So I think it's more of a matter of Sweden just to woke the beast.
Okay. Neil, Juventus this week, there's talk of Ronaldo now staying. He has a year left on his contract. There's talk of Chiellini signing a new contract. And there's talk of Dybala, who also is down to the last bit of his contract, in talks now to sign a new contract. Ronaldo, I can understand. Chiellini, I can understand. Dybala, I just never had the time for him. I just don't see what's amazing about him. Italian football, when you look at it, as I said, there's little bits and pieces of players who are going over that are worth the quality. There's Lukaku shown as worth over there. Inter have said that there's no way that they're going to sell him. He's the most secure player in their squad. He won't be leaving. Can you see anything coming out of Italy this season? If Inter sold Chiesa, let's say, to Liverpool, would that be showing that they're not up for it? They're not really stepping up to the next level? Do they need to keep Chiesa to show that they mean business?
Well, geez, I hope it doesn't. But I mean, if you look at the Italians, the top Italian players, there's been very rare times where the top guys, even back when the Premier League had a lot more money than them. I'm going back to your Totti, your Del Piero, these type of guys. They were, one-man clubs, life clubs, especially Totti. But there was never really a proper noise where you thought you could poach the Italians out of Italy. It's only because they've gotten themselves into a little bit of a financial mess. They can't compete at the top level with the Spanish league, and now obviously the Premier League is a serious juggernaut. So I don't think it's important for them to make a statement as in Italy as a whole, but maybe for Juve, maybe for one of the two of the teams that in Europe want to say, listen, we're still a big player here. And I mean, let's be honest, you wouldn't really see a whole lot of Juve other than in the Champions League. They bought Ronaldo, and Ronaldo said it, obviously, they bought me here to win the Champions League. So I mean, it's a massive weight on Ronaldo's shoulders. You can understand why they do. They play to him. They set up the team for him to play. Nothing else matters. Maybe that's why the likes of Dybala and a few of these guys can't play their style of football, because they're probably running around an extra 10-15% to cover for the likes of Ronaldo, who's now aging. But for Italian football, I think they're making small steps. I think they're more stable in Europe. The likes of Inter have really flied the flag well this year, that they look a more dangerous outfit. And maybe by them being very intent towards and saying, listen, Lukaku's going nowhere, he's the number one. There's a lot of clubs in the Premier League that would really have a good look at Lukaku if he was a free agent again. So it's a kind of a cat and mouse scenario. I don't think the Italian League worries too much about the Premier League, but they definitely want to keep their main talent in Italy, which they always have done.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Don't forget to subscribe to the Big Kickoff Football Show. Go to thebigkickoff.com and check us out on social media. David, as always, thanks very much. Neil, thank you very much. And we'll be talking to you.